Good evening and thank you for joining our community meeting for Pressley Road Park. Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation staff are excited to begin the process of working with you and your neighbors to identify improvements to the park that reflect your needs. Ultimately, we want to ensure that Pressley Road Park is a vital and loved part of your neighborhood. Next slide, please. During today's meeting, we want to share some context and history of the Pressley Road Park site. We will review the current conditions of the site along with some potential new amenities. Most importantly, though, we want to hear from you. We will wrap up today's meeting with an overview of the project schedule. Next slide. Before we get started, I want to walk you through some of the features of our virtual meeting platform. It is important that everyone stays muted throughout the presentation. You will notice a button on the bottom left of your screen. Make sure there is a red slash through the microphone. There will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end, either by unmuting or using the chat feature. You are free to turn on your video during the presentation or during the discussion portion of today's session. You can do that by clicking the Start Video button. If you have questions or comments throughout the presentation, please use the chat function. There is a button on the bottom of your screen to bring up your chat box. Later in the presentation, we will give everyone an opportunity to unmute and share your thoughts about the park. So let's test the chat feature now. If you would, please type your name and your favorite outdoor activity into the chat. Hiking. Walking, same. I'm a hiker and a walker too. Next slide, Katie. So over the last 2 years, Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation has been working on a new Park and Recreation master plan called MEC Playbook. One component of the plan was a full inventory and assessment of all parks, greenways, nature preserves, rec centers, and other department facilities. As a result of the assessment, each park and rec facility was given a grade. The lower grade of Pressley Road Park called attention to the needs to make significant investment in the future. This same system will be used to prioritize future investments in existing facilities. Next slide. After the inventory and assessment was complete, the results were compiled and sorted into a summary sheet based on the park classification. The image here shows a summary of all of our neighborhood or local parks. You can see that Pressley Road Park received a D grade. We found that while several of our larger community regional parks have been well maintained, even those that are older, many of our older neighborhood parks are in poor condition. We anticipate our next round of capital improvement plan projects will include significant reinvestment in our existing neighborhood parks. With that, I'll turn it over to Katie Daughtry to walk you through Pressley Road Park.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. So just kind of a brief history of Pressley Road Park. It was purchased by the city of Charlotte back when they had their own park and recreation department. It was developed sometime after it was purchased in around 1979. In 1997, the park was turned over to Mecklenburg County Park and Recreation when the city and county decided to consolidate their park and recreation services. So currently at Pressley Road Park, for those of you that are familiar, there's an existing path that connects Pressley Road to Manchester Drive. And the several times that we've been out on site, that has been where we've seen the most activity, is folks that walk through the park to get from one point to another. The playground equipment that's out there that was updated a few years ago, but the swings were removed and were never replaced after a Charlotte water sewer project that occurred in the area. The bridge that crosses the creek is narrow and outdated, and it's in need of significant repair and more than likely replacement. And then of course, as you know, there really aren't very many other amenities in the park. There's a couple of benches and a grill that's kind of sitting all by itself. So, you know, the park as it exists today doesn't have a lot going on in it. So one of the things that we've done is kind of brainstorm what potential amenities we could include in this renovation. One of the things that we find often in our neighborhood parks are shelters with picnic tables underneath them and a grill associated with that. Of course, like I mentioned, a new bridge would more than likely have to happen. Enhanced seating, additional seating, maybe even a neat little seating area because it's a really pretty area down by the creek. We would improve access from both streets and make sure that the paths that connect the two are not only paved, but they're accessible. And then, of course, I think adding swings back in this park would be very important. So now, since we don't have a whole lot of people on our meeting, we're going to give y'all the opportunity to speak up if you'd like to, and let us know what you would like to see added to Pressley Road Park. And if you know if you can find your chat button, there's also the option to unmute yourself there.
Hi, this is Cheryl Dell. I live in the neighborhood.
Hi.
I would like to see a place where we can roller skate, like a court or maybe a roller skating path, because I go to the Clanton Road Park and I'm often in their way on the basketball court.
Have you ever roller skated down one of our greenways, Cheryl?
I haven't.
Okay. I've seen some people skating. Most often, you see bicycles and strollers and people walking, but yeah, okay. So you're thinking of like a court size paved area.
Yes, just a little small area where people can roller skate, rollerblade, and not be in the way.
Would anybody else like to speak up, or Cheryl, if you've got another idea?
I don't have any other ideas as of yet.
That's okay. If you think of something as we progress through the meeting, feel free to speak up.
Oh, volleyball.
Volleyball?
For volleyball.
Okay. So I think something must have come from the chat because it says bridge and improved access or walks, and 100% agree with that. That is something that we identified early as needing improvement there, for sure. All right. A half court basketball. All right. I think that goes to Cheryl's point. Maybe something that could do double duty as a basketball or multi-purpose court area that you could roller skate on. All right. Do we have anybody else? Well, the next slide is really for any kind of additional comments or questions that you may have regarding the park or the renovations that will be coming along. And the next slide, I'm going to share the timeline. So that'll help you kind of understand what we're working with.
Hi, this is Teresa Simmons. I have a question. It's this, and I haven't lived in the area for quite a while. My mom's home is there, and I own that. But my question is this a park that's just accessible to the neighboring areas? Would it be accessible to others?
So this park is kind of at the end of two dead-end streets, and it doesn't have any parking associated with it. So we really create these smaller parks with the intention of folks that are within walking distance to access them. But, you know, like anything throughout the county, if it's a public park, people can drive to it if they choose to. And as far as parking goes, they would just have to park on neighborhood streets to get there. The times that we've been out there, there's not been anybody parked, you know, near the park to get to the park. Most of the people that we see come through the park or using the park are people that walk up. And that, I figure that that's primarily how it has been used and will probably continue to be used.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, if we don't have any additional comments, today was kind of our initial outreach to the community. As you saw on that list, there are lots of parks in Mecklenburg County that need some renovation work done to them, and that's going to be a heavy focus in what's called our capital improvement plan, which we are starting to work on here in the next 12 months for the next 5-year increment. So that plan will run from fiscal year 2024, which starts July 1 of 2023 through fiscal year 2028. So that would be through June of 2028. And development of that plan, like I said, will be ongoing over the next 12 months. Pressley Road is one of the projects that we identified as being part of that next capital improvement plan. To date, we don't know where it'll fall within that range of fiscal years. But once we kind of flesh all that out, the board will review that CIP and approve it in spring of 2023. And then funding for the park will be kind of based on whatever year it falls in. So the board doesn't fund everything up front. They fund it on an annual basis. And once we know which year the project falls into and which year the funding will be available, we will circle back with the community and, you know, kind of add to this great feedback that we got tonight, and before moving into the design phase for the renovation. So we appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Please take down our contact information, and you can see the public input site there at the bottom of the screen. That's where we'll post any updates that we have. And, you know, if you have any questions in between now and when we figure out when this project will be funded, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you in any way that we can.
Hey, Katie,
Thank
Cheryl had
you.
another great idea in the chat for a community garden.
Community garden, great. We'll write that down. And like I said, we're going to keep up with all of this information so that whenever we circle back, we can, you know, it's kind of a good starting point so that we know kind of how to scope out the project before, as we're budgeting and figuring out when these are going to actually take place. So we appreciate everybody coming out. And again, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.